Hey everyone, how's it going today? Good morning. Today is Tuesday, and James Crumbly and his wife Jennifer, they are being sentenced today. Their son Ethan was a school shooter. This happened back in a couple years ago this was in Michigan. So they're being sentenced today. They were both found guilty. Now, this is like one of those cases where it's really unique because I don't think parents of a school shooter has ever been charged and convicted. I think this is going to set like a precedent. But yeah, hi, Unicorn Milk. How are you doing today? Hello, hello. I got my breakfast here. We're going to I listened to the tail end of James Crumbly's statement. And it's very interesting. I don't know. Apparently, there's been some jailhouse calls that he made too that were a little bit weird and threatening. I haven't listened to the entirety of it yet, but I saw like bits and pieces of it. But anyways, we're just going to sit here. We're going to chill. I hope you guys have a good day. Maybe later on we might stream again. And maybe if Mew testifies in the Apple River stabbings, maybe we'll start up the stream again. But I just want to watch the stream, just hang out with you guys, and just have my breakfast with y'all. So I hope you guys are having a good day. And let's get started. They're going to start with Jennifer Crumbly's statement, and then James Crumbly, her husband. I don't know if they're even together anymore. Maybe ex-husband. Maybe they're separated. I don't know. I mean, technically they are separated because they haven't seen each other because they're in prison. But oh god. Anyways, I don't know if they officially like filed for divorce or anything like that. But this case was very interesting. This is a case that I did not cover on stream. I don't believe. I don't think I covered on stream. I don't think I made any videos about it. But I watched a lot of footage from this case, and it was mostly because of the conduct between Jennifer Crumbly's lawyer right here, who actually reminds me of Pam from The Office, and the prosecutors over here. A lot of animosity between the two of them, and just a lot of animosity. And I'm sure y'all have seen it, but there was a lot of clips that were out there from the Jennifer Crumbly trial, and it was pretty wild. It was pretty crazy. There's the judge in this case. She's pretty chill, I would say. She's very chill, very patient. I'm surprised she hasn't put down the hammer. And I don't know. There's some cases where I thought she was gonna like put her foot down and start like just like going off on everyone, but she was pretty chill and calm from what I saw. Hi Morden, hi Kay, hi Unicorn. So I got my breakfast here. Good morning. Let's listen to Jennifer and James Crumbly. I don't know. What do you guys think they should be sentenced?
Ms. Smith, what would you like to say on behalf of the client?
Your Honor, my client would also like to make a statement. Would you like me to?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course. You may both allocute.
Thank you.
Justice for breakfast is Unicorn.
I didn't know which one you wanted to.
Either way first. It's up to you. You or your client.
Would you like to go first or would you like me to go first? You go first. Okay. Do I stay here?
You can stay there.
Your Honor, is there any way she can have this handcuff off? Because she has multiple pages.
Okay. Oh, I was like, what is that fisting motion? Was that like go get it, girl? Like, what was this? But I think she was she was motioning to get the handcuffs off or something. I was like, what is this attorney doing?
I'm right here. I don't have to shuffle.
You're okay? Okay.
I don't know if I'm allowed to.
Okay.
It's okay.
She said she's okay.
It's okay.
Go ahead, Ms. Crumbly.
Oatmeal here.
I sit here today to express my deepest sorrow for the families of Hannah, Tate, Madison, Justin, and to all those affected on November 30th, 2021. The dragging weight this has taken on my heart and soul cannot be expressed into words. Just as I know there is nothing I can say that's going to ease the pain and suffering of the victims and their families. There's a quote I heard that rang true. Grief. For those of you who understand, no explanation is needed. And for those of us who do not, no description is possible. I've taken countless nights of lament over the anguish and shame I carry, knowing what my son did, the harm he caused innocent lives, the families.
In one of the victim impact statements, the man was saying that instead of these parents taking accountability, they've just become more and more defiant as time went on. So, I mean, I absolutely, they don't believe that they feel any sort of like contrition, I guess, or like responsibility for what happened.
And to the entire Oxford community. I pray all the
Yes, Ethan is still alive. He's locked up. Yeah, Ethan is he's still alive. Sorry, sometimes I mix him with the Parkland shooter case.
victims are the embodiment of God's mercy and peace, and that He heals your broken spirits. When I was on the stand, I was asked if I
Got life without parole,
would have done anything
as deserved.
different. I was horrified to learn my answer I would not have was completely misunderstood. That answer is true because my son did seem so normal. I didn't have a reason to do anything different.
What happened in this case? This is what I know so far. Their son was a school shooter. He's alive. He's already been convicted. He got life with no parole. The parents are being charged. Now, you're probably thinking like, oh, why are his parents being charged? What happened? So apparently the state was trying to say that the parents knew that Ethan had severe mental issues. Like he was like texting them weird things, saying them like he was seeing things that weren't there. And he was like just acting really weird, really off. And so the parents thought it'd be a good idea for, I think it was like one of his birthdays, to buy him a gun. They take him to the shooting range, teach him how to use it. The gun is locked up in the family home, but I think he was still able to have access to it in the safe. But he bought the kid the gun. And the day of the shooting happened, the kid was like, I don't know, it was like a math test or something like that, but he was drawing some really disturbing shit, okay? He was like drawing and writing really weird things. It was like him, I think, maybe in a gun, saying that like he was going to kill people. It was just like really weird, disturbing stuff like that. And so the teacher, got the principal called the parents over, and the parents were like, hey, like, this is what your son drew. What do you think? Do you want to take him for the day? And then she's like, oh, she's got work and stuff like that. So she's like, oh, like, can he stay here? And I guess the school cleared it. I don't know why I don't know why the school is not even like involved in this, because I feel like if you're going to hold the parents responsible, I mean, the school maybe should also be responsible as well. Like this kid drew some really disturbing shit. Kick the kid out for the day or for the week or something like that. I don't know, get him some help. But the school did say that your son needs help. And she did agree. She agreed that like, she was going to take her son to get some help. But they let the kid stay there that day. And that's the same day when the shooting happened. So the state is trying to argue that like, hey, like, Jennifer, James, y'all had information. Y'all knew that he shouldn't have stayed there in school that day because you knew that he was been mentally disturbed for a bit now. Y'all bought him a gun. You guys had the information. Why not take him out right away? So I still think the school should have been like, hey, he can't be here. Like he's strong, disturbing stuff like that. Like this is like really weird. And he's like threatening people. So that's why they're charged. There was some weird stuff with this case as well. You guys may have seen the headlines, like how this woman right here, Jennifer Crumbley, she was like having an affair. That man testified for this case as well. I think her boss also testified about this case. Apparently, they were accused of being on the run because they stayed at their friend's like empty place, and there was just like a mattress on the floor. And then police, when they eventually found them, they broke in and they like saw them sleeping on like a mattress on the floor. They were trying to say that they were going to turn themselves in, but it kind of doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. So yeah, the parents have been convicted. Today is the sentencing. So I'm interested to see what are they going to get.
This was not something I foresaw. That was the intention of my answer and how I interpreted the question.
Yeah, this is 2021. The maximum prison stay for the crimes is 15 years, but the minimum sentence set by the judge on April 9 will be critical because this is a 2.5 years credit for time spent in Oakland County Jail. The Crumbleys will be eligible for parole consideration after that time.
With the benefit of hindsight and the information I have now, my answer would be drastically different. If I even thought my son could be capable of crimes like these, things would have absolutely been different.
That's what people were saying. They were saying that like, oh, you were too busy cheating to notice anything with your son, blah, 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 blah. That was definitely in the headlines.
Even worse, when I learned during the police investigation that he had been planning a school shooting before November 30th. He was not the son I woke up. He was not the son I knew when I woke up on November 30th. The Ethan I knew was a good, quiet kid. He loved his pets, family vacations.
I will say this, though. When the shootings happened, it's my understanding that the father went back to the home because he was concerned. He went back to the home to see if the gun was still there and noticed that the gun wasn't there anymore. So I believe he called 911 and said, hey, it might be my son. If I remember correctly. It's kind of weird, right? Say like a shooting happened, usually you kind of like go to the school and you're like, oh my god, is my kid okay? Is my kid okay? But no, instead he went to his house because he probably had an inkling that his son was like disturbed or something. So
My husband and I used to say we had the perfect kid. I truly believed that, and that's who I saw and thought I knew. As the details started emerging during discovery, I was horrified to learn concerning behaviors my son was reported doing at school.
we'll see, Christine.
Refusing to take a makeup test he told us he took. Sleeping in class. Drawing pictures of guns on his assignments. Writing, quote, "My family is a mistake." Watching a video in class of a mass shooting that fatal day, along with internal communications that took place between his teachers and counselor, Mr. Hopkins. That he is, quote, "on my radar," and, quote, "he seems to be having a rough time," was never disclosed to us, his parents. The school claimed this was not abnormal behavior because of the pandemic and Oxford being a, quote, "gun community."
Wait, but no, oh my god, she had text messages of her son saying like some really weird, disturbing things and like how he was seeing things and whatever. And like, I think, if I remember correctly, did they give him like a Xanax? Did they like self-prescribe him Xanax or something like that? I just remember like he was like texting her some weird stuff and she's like, oh, okay, like, Ethan's being weird again,
To say I was furious to learn this information is an understatement. This is not normal behavior to us and very different than what Ethan led us to believe was happening at school.
Hi, DJ.
Not only were you left in the dark about previous concerning behavior, but in the counselor's office that morning, none of those previous issues were brought to our attention. I can't stop thinking, had they been, the conversation that morning would have been much different. That we would have taken a deep dive into what's really been going on with my son. I wonder if Hopkins and EJAC have those same regrets too. Instead, we are led to believe, not only from Hopkins and EJAC, but from Ethan as well, that this was an isolated event. We felt confident in trusting the professional's advice to let him stay in school that day.
Oh no, I thought she was going to take responsibility. I thought we were past this point. Maybe she'll take accountability at the end of the speech. Oh god. Their trial started, I believe, like beginning of this year. She had her trial separately, and then her husband James had his trial afterwards.
Quote, he does not pose a threat to himself or others. It was suggested that him being around peers would probably be good. We agreed. We were never asked to take him home that day. If that was discussed as the best course of action, we would have obliged. The prosecution keeps saying we didn't give them the big picture that morning in the counselor's office. But what they failed to acknowledge is the bigger picture the school did not give us. I'm not the same person I was prior to November 30th, 2021. This tragedy has changed who I am and has taught me some very valuable lessons.
Hi, Lily.
It's said in suffering we gain wisdom. I've also gained God. In the quiet hours of myself, I prayed to him about the deep impact this tragedy has had on the families and the endless pain no one should ever have to feel. For it is God who holds a true understanding of our pain. I've also learned to depend on him for peace and strength. Alone, I'm not strong enough. I've learned that we cannot tell or predict what will happen to us in this life. One day you wake up and everything can change. We can, however, decide what happens in us, how we take it, what we do with it. And that's what really matters in the end. That's the test of living, is how we take the unimaginable, the tragedies, the raw hardships, and make them a thing of worth and beauty. I've also learned to never think this could not happen to you, and stereotype that bad kids come from bad parents. The prosecution has tried to mold us into the type of parents society wants to believe are so horrible, only a school or mass shooter could be bred from. This is a very trivial assumption to have. We were good parents. We were the average family. We weren't perfect, but we loved our son and each other tremendously.
Oh man, okay, it's been what, like 3 years since this happened? That's 3 years of reflection. I don't know, man. I feel like your best option is just to like say I'm fucking sorry, take the responsibility, and hope the judge is lenient with your sentence. I don't know if this looks good. I know this judge is pretty chill from what I've seen so far, but you never know. She might be a harsh lady when it comes to people not taking like full accountability like this.
Everything we strive for was to make sure our son had the best life we could give him, to grow up with traditions and experiences we had, to be the best person he could be. I know we did our best. The love I have for our son, mixed with regret for not seeing what was ahead, weighs heavily on me. My point is, this could be any parent up here in my shoes. Ethan could be your child, could be your grandchild, your niece, your nephew, your brother, your sister. Your child can make a fatal decision, not just with the gun, but a knife, a vehicle, intentionally or unintentionally. If there's anything the general public can take away from this, is that this could happen to you too. The tragedy has taught me the true meaning of unconditional love as I watch my parents still love and care for me wholeheartedly, no matter what has happened. If there's nothing else I can do right in life, I do still love my son unconditionally, and perhaps that is my purpose. Your Honor, I don't envy the decision you have to make today. I understand this is a novel case, and punishment expectations are high, not just from the prosecution, but from all those affected as well.
Definitely, Caitlin.
The heartbreaking journey these families have endured. Hang on, I have to back up. I missed my most important. I need to cross. The most valuable piece of wisdom I gained is the power of forgiveness. To forgive the prosecution for the slander and hate against me and my husband.
Oh my god. I want to take this time to forgive the prosecution, okay? I guess that's nice of her. I don't know.
To forgive the prosecution for the slander and hate against me and my husband. Ms. McDonald, Mr. Keys, I have hated you with deep anger, but hate is too heavy of a cross to carry. I need to be set free of that burden and recognize that you are people just like me, imperfect, but a child of God. I know He wants good things to happen to you, and in any conflict, whatever the circumstances, He is there loving both sides. To the victims and the families.
Oh gosh, she's about to address the victims and the families. I'm a little bit scared for this part. You know, I think it's a good thing to forgive the people that you fucking hate. I think it's good to let go of that hatred and that anger. But Jennifer, I think it might have been better if you just did it privately and not just announce it out loud like that. Maybe. Okay, now she's going to address the victims and the victim's family.
Sides. To the victims and the families.
Okay.
I stand today not to ask for your forgiveness, as I know it may be beyond reach, but to express my sincerest apologies for the pain that has been caused. Your Honor, I don't envy you in the decision you have to make today. I understand that punishment expectations are high from all sides. This heartbreaking journey the families have endured is more than anyone should have to bear and acknowledge in its full depth. My time in confinement has been filled with deep remorse, regret, and grief over this tragedy. I have taken this one day at a time, trying to survive, navigate, and cope with the endless heartache, pain, and grief I feel for the families of Hannah, Justin, Madison, and Tate. I have also lost myself over my son's wrongdoing. I've been shredded by the public opinion of me, shamed as a horrible parent, pained to be a terrible person.
I will also say this, not gonna lie, when I first saw her and her husband get charged, their mugshots look really bad. I was like, whoa. Like, they look like scary people in their mugshots.
But the worst hell I carry is my own self-judgment, remorse, and deep regret.
She looks a lot more docile now, in my opinion, but those mugshots were so scary.
I've been criticized I don't show emotion. I'm unsympathetic. I don't cry enough. But alone I grieve. And if you were to look into me internally, you'd find I've died on the inside. I will be in my own internal prison for the rest of my life. Your Honor, I ask you to take consideration that I have been locked in a cell 23 hours a day, essentially in solitary confinement, for over 28 months, and that the court finds a fair and just sentence for me.
Here are the mugshots of the entire family. You got like the entire family lined up here. I don't know, but when I first saw this mugshot, I was like, yo, they look scary, okay? She looks scary. He looks scary. He's pretty fucking scary too. Like everyone just looks, entire family just look really scary to me.
Thank you. Do you have to address the court?
Yes, sure, thank you. Your Honor, as I pointed out in my sentencing memo, this was a no-win case. When we walked in the door, there are no winners here. Every single person was home here.
Agreed.
And there's also no limit on the amount of sadness, grief, and horrific emotions that are felt across the board in this case. And when Mrs. Crumbly does express remorse, when she expresses sadness, there's a tendency, and there has been a tendency, for people to say she's shifting from sadness to the victims and putting it on herself. She's not doing that. There's an abundance of sadness. There's enough sadness to go around for all of the victims, for Mrs. Crumbly, for everyone involved in this case.
Cases, I don't know, her statement has weak points, but it's on the better side in your opinion. The husband's, I only listened to the tail end of the husband's statement, and I was like, ah. But maybe he started off better. I don't know. I want to see who's better, the husband or the wives.
It's not surprising that the victims have come in and obviously want the maximum sentence. There has been a narrative throughout this case that they believe is true. And this court knows that there is other information that was not a part of this case. Mm-hmm. And I believe this court knows the defense was hugely hamstrung, and I think the court was pained at times over what to do.
I guess I'm not sure what you mean.
I'm talking about not being able to call the medical professionals, not being able to call the shooter to the stand, not being able to call.
Oh, this is what the husband is talking about. Because he's like, the truth will come out or something. I'm like, what? Hi, Rod. How are you doing today? How's it going?
Cross-examine on various pieces of evidence.
I'm not convinced the shooter would have helped you.
Okay, all of those are obviously issues, but there were things that hamstrung the defense. And
Are you
I
talking
do
about
believe
the forensic records?
I do believe the shooter would have helped, and I do believe the forensic records would have helped. And I understand the court has already ruled on that. I understand that.
Hi, Ray.
I think
I like her outfit. I think she looks pretty nice. I like her outfit.
Tendency, though, after hearing the narrative that has been made public, has been to make Jennifer Crumbley sound like a monster, to vilify her, to make her sound like a horrible mother, an evil person. And the truth is, it's an effort to put her in a category of other, to say this is not something that could happen to any of us. And it is. It is something that could happen to any of us. And people fail to realize what the sentencing memo shows the court through numerous letters of support that Mrs. Crumbly.
Here's the thing. If my kid was having disturbing thoughts, I don't know if I would buy him a fucking gun and teach him how to fucking use it. It wasn't like they were just a typical, normal, happy family. There was no signs of his mental disturbance. None of that. And then it was just like, wait, what? He's a school shooter? He stole my gun? Wait, how did this happen? It didn't seem like it was for this case. The kid was having some like really disturbing shit. The parents probably didn't know how to deal with that stuff. I don't know, maybe they didn't believe in like mental health or anything like that. But parents, they tried dealing with it in other ways. I could have sworn they self-prescribed him like Xanax or something. Like, oh, here, just give him some Xanax or something so he can chill out. I could have sworn that was true. I need to fact check my own shit, but I'm pretty sure they did that. Okay.
She does have a kind heart. She does have compassion. She has spent night after night crying, not for only herself and her son, but also for the victims and for what her son did and what she will live with, knowing he did, and what she missed all the years forward.
Does anyone know? Did the son know about the affair? I wonder if maybe in addition to him, like maybe having a tough time adjusting to the high school life, maybe he also found out that his mom was having an affair, and there was like so many things like kind of like cause him to like start like acting out. Anyone know about that?
At the end of the day, we asked the court to look at Mrs. Crumbley's role in the offenses. We asked the court to consider that while she did not oppose having a gun in the home, she was not the person who was responsible for storing the gun and believed it was being stored properly and that it was locked. Mrs. Crumbly obviously testified, and all of the evidence at trial showed she believed there was a string lock, a cable lock placed on the gun, on the weapon.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but that has really troubled me from your sentencing memo, because you spent a lot of time talking about the fact that she didn't know anything about the gun.
Wait, oh, hold on a second. I could barely hear the judge, so I got to slow her down. The judge says something about, I think something about the lawyer's statement is like troubling her.
Cable lock placed on the gun, on the weapon.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but that has really troubled me from your sentencing memo, because you spent a lot of time talking about the fact that she didn't know anything about the gun. She didn't lock it, she wasn't responsible for it. But at one time she was texting her husband to see whether or not he got the gun and how much it was. She posted pictures of it as her son's Christmas present.
Oh, it was for a Christmas present. Yeah, she got the gun for a Christmas present. Sorry, it wasn't a birthday present.
She shot the gun, and I don't know if you're aware of this. I don't know if either side was aware of this, but the first jury determined that there was a claim that the gun was the responsibility solely of defendant James Crumbley. And Mrs. Crumbley testified that when she returned from the range with the shooter on November 27, it was the defendant James Crumbley who was responsible for the 6-hour retrieve from the car and was supposed to keep it safe. The first jury recognized that the GPS admitted in the case shows that even prior to the defendant James Crumbley returning to the house, the shooter was videotaping the unlocked Sig Sauer in the kitchen of the home. So that's not true.
Ooh. So I do remember this. They were trying to say that the gun was James's responsibility. He was supposed to lock it up and all that stuff. But I guess there was like some GPS showing that like when the parents were on their way home or something like that, the kid was at home. He was like videotaping the gun and was like unlocked.
The shooter was videotaping the unlocked Sig Sauer in the kitchen's crumbs. That the GPS admitted in the case shows that even prior to the defendant James Crumbley returning to the house, the shooter was videotaping.
Oh, when he returned to the house, I guess when the dad returned to the house.
Taping the unlocked Sig Sauer in the kitchen of the home. So that's not true. That's not true. She also testified that a key to the cable lock was kept in the beer stein in the kitchen, but it's clear that the cable lock was clearly never opened.
Your Honor,
Oh, so the judge was saying that the gun wasn't locked like the parents claim it was. The judge is saying that it's a lie.
First of all, the jury's finding about the timing of the GPS and when the gun video was made is not correct.
Is not correct?
The evidence at trial did not support that. We know that's not correct. Mrs. Crumbly left the gun in the car so that James Crumbly could put the gun in the house and store it correctly.
Look at the state's table. They're like, here she goes again. Wait a second.
Mrs. Crumbly, there were multiple cable locks in that house because there was more than one cable lock. There was not just the cable lock that was on the Sig Sauer. There was more than one.
I wouldn't recall that.
There were not more than one found, but whatever Ethan Crumbly did with the cable lock from the Sig Sauer, we don't know.
The gun wasn't locked.
Your Honor, jury. Okay.
Your Honor, the jury got it wrong. I was curious to see what a cable lock looks like. If you guys are too, if you guys aren't like familiar with guns, so that's what it looks like. I guess you lock it around there. That way, you can't like, what's it called? It's like open right now, right? And you loop it through. Yeah, and that way you can't use it. Oh God.
factually,
Yes, they were convicted. This is sentencing right now.
during Mrs. Crumbley's trial, it was not proven that the gun was not locked. I don't know what happened at James Crumbley's trial.
You know about his statements. The gun was never locked.
Whose statements?
Mr. Crumbley's statements.
I'm laughing because this lawyer had a lot of really interesting moments when she was doing her trial with Jennifer Crumbly. And just now she's saying, well, I don't know what happened with James Crumbly's trial. And the judge is like, but you know his statements, don't you?
Mr. Crumbly and Mrs. Crumbly talked about how the gun had been locked in all of the evidence I saw. Well, Your Honor, obviously we have
Go on.
This is not looking good. The judge is making so many faces right now.
Go on. I don't think the evidence has shown that she had no involvement with the gun.
I'm not saying no involvement. I said she supported the gun. She didn't object to the gun. But when it came down to it, probation writes in her narrative that she taught her son how to use the gun, and it's very obvious watching the evidence in the trial that she was not the one teaching him how to use the gun.
There's no evidence that she taught him how to use the gun. When Mrs. Crumbly spoke, she
acknowledged what the testimony was at trial about all of the different things that she wished had come to her attention from the school employees. And the prosecutor's office has said that the proposal the defense has made regarding Mrs. Crumbly is a slap in the face. And what's truly a slap in the face, not only to the victims in this case, but also to the Crumbleys, is how much the Oxford schools did fail the Crumbleys and all the victims. Because if Mrs. Crumbly had been presented any of those 5 things, things would be different and we would probably not be here today. I am asking this court, I know the court of public opinion is running high right now. Emotions are running very high. There are many, many complicated issues with this case. It is a dynamic and different case than most cases. Mrs. Crumbly does have a good heart. This is a woman who had no felony history. She's a working mom who was very busy, did have a hobby.
I don't think there's anything wrong with those things.
I'm just saying, largely the evidence at trial were some of those things, and Mrs. Crumbly did have an enormous amount of love for her son, and what she has been painted out to be in the media and throughout this case, and even throughout the victim impact statements today, is just not congruent with the people who know Mrs. Crumbly and know her heart. It's also not congruent with the text messages she sent right after the shooting about how she wished she would have died instead of one of the kids.
I don't think the verdict was about how feeling she is or how sad she is. I think the verdict was about behaviors that led up to that day.
Well, there has been an enormous amount of criticism about whether or not she's sad enough, and there was cross-examination extensively about whether she cried or not enough on the stand, or when during the videos that were played of police interviews and things like that. And then, on the same hand, when
I don't doubt that they were both in shock. I don't doubt that.
And at the end of the day, though, when she did cry, there was an objection about crying. And so Mrs. Crumbly from the very beginning has been damned no matter what way she went. This was the most horrific thing that could have happened to the community, to the victims, to these families. Absolutely horrific. At the end of the day, however, it's a unique and complicated case, and that is why I proposed the sentence I did. I don't believe the sentencing guidelines take into account the very
What's her proposed sentence?
unique situation that we have in this case with a young man who will be in prison forever. I'm asking the court to keep that in mind, and please keep in mind the other arguments throughout the memo.
I think you know that I read everything you send me.
I do, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Do you want to respond now, or do you want to get a counter from this one?
State looks like she over there rolling her eyes.
I prefer just to be able to respond once, Your Honor.
Are you okay with that?
That's fine, Your Honor.
Would you like to address the court, or would you like the client to address the court, please?
Would you like to address the court, James?
I would.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Crumbley will address the court. For the record, he does have something typed out that I typed out for him, so it's bigger and easier for him to read, Your Honor.
Okay.
You can't read. No, she
She asked Jennifer Crumbley to live with her on house arrest. Stop.
said she cannot tell them to.
Wait, hold on.
He would.
Wait. Are you guys kidding or are you guys fucking with me? Because 2 people in chat said that. You guys are lying.
Your Honor, there was some confusion about whether or not he could get his second handcuff off. I was just clarifying. The court said she cannot tell the sheriff's
I would
office.
just, does he have to?
What? Legit? Real? It's true? She got a mattress set up. No way. No way.
Yes. I was just clarifying, Your Honor. Thank you.
I'm joking about the mattress.
Before I address this court directly,
Hey lady, how are you doing today? This is the dad.
I want to do something that I have never been able to do throughout this time until now. I want to say I can't imagine the pain and agony that for the families that have lost their children and what they're experiencing and what they're going through. As a parent, our biggest fear is losing our child or our children. And to lose a child is unimaginable. My heart is really broken for everybody involved. I understand my words are not going to bring any comfort. I understand that they're not going to relieve any pain. And quite frankly, they probably just don't believe me. However, I really want the families of Madison Baldwin, Hannah St. Juliana, Tate Meyer, Mir, and Justin Schilling to know how truly sorry I am and how devastated I was when I heard what happened to them.
I still don't know how I feel about them being charged like this. I don't know what the right action is, to be honest. Yeah, when I initially heard about this case, I was a little bit like, I don't know. I was a little bit unsure about it too. There are parts where I was like, okay, like they could have done better. They could have done better here, and here. But they did get some bonus points with me. Like when the shooting happened right afterwards, the dad like went back to his house, checked to see if it was the gun, and then he calls 911, right? I think the mom like agreed to get him like counseling and all this stuff. But like, I don't know. I'm just trying to think like in like normal parents, right? Let's say you get called over and your son has like these like really disturbing drawings, right? And you just don't have time. You can't take off work, right? You can't take off work. You're like, oh, hey, can my son stay here? And then, you know, she agrees to like get him like mental health counseling or something like that. I don't know. Like I could see that happening because maybe the parents like didn't really take it seriously. But the thing that like kind of like it's really weird to me is that I guess why did you think getting a gun for your son would make things better for him when he was having so many disturbing thoughts, you know? Like I know there are parents out there who are like, oh, just like you just like tough it out, right? Just tough it out. You don't need therapy. You're good. Just tough it out. And I grew up in that generation as well. And I'm sure there's parents today who, you know, still think that way. Just like, oh, I'm sure they're fine. This is a teenage thing. They'll grow out of it. But I don't know. There's just like a lot about this where it's just like, oh, it's just like so weird. So I'm not quite sure as well. Like when this case was happening, I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I can go either way. I've seen bits and pieces of the trial. I still think that, you know, if the school was okay with letting him stay, then is the onus really just on the parents? I guess they're trying to say like the parents should have known because they had more background information than the school did. But it seems like the kid was having a lot of issues at the school, and he was on like someone's radar or something. Yeah, and then the issue is that it seems like they claim, because initially I thought they had the gun locked up, safe, tucked away, and stuff like that. But it seems like, from what the judge is saying today, it seems like that wasn't the case. It seems like the gun was kind of just out. The school shooter was like taking video footages of it, and they had a video of him. They made fun of him, not only tough it out. I saw a text message between the parents. So I don't know. I think it's one of those cases where, no, I think it's good for parents to be more alert and be more responsible for their children's actions. But at the same time, I was like, oh, I don't know. For this case, I wasn't really sure. But I haven't seen the whole thing. I've seen some testimonies here and there.
I have cried for you and the loss of your children more times than I can count. I know your pain and loss will never go away.
Like the one with the Parkland shooter and them charging the security guard, I thought that was really weird. I was like, whoa, that seems like a complete overreach to me. But that guy was acquitted. So I wasn't really sure if maybe during this time there was just like they just want to go hard on like school shooters and like not the shooters themselves, but like the peripheral people around there, like, you know, the security officer, the parents and stuff like that.
Part of you will be missing forever. But please know that I am truly very sorry. I am sorry for your loss as a result of what my son did. I cannot express how much I wish that I had known what was going on with him or what was going to happen. Because I absolutely would have done a lot of things differently. Again, my heart pours out to every single one of you. It really does. Judge Matthews, I'm not gonna overdo a lot of things that were already said. But I know the full amount of pressure that you have on you and the responsibility that has been placed on you throughout this case. I have the utmost respect for you, and I'm simply going to ask that you sentence me in a fair and just way. You presided over my trial and heard the evidence that was presented against me. You know.
Have y'all listened to his jailhouse calls yet? There were jailhouse calls saying that he was like threatening the prosecutors, but he said that he was just venting. I was like, why didn't you wait until after sentencing? Because I feel like it could look really bad for you, Mr. Crumbley.
That what my son did, I was not aware of, or that he was planning it, or that he obtained access to the firearms in my house. There was absolutely no evidence that suggested that. As my attorney has told you, I've been on lockdown for 23 hours a day. I've not been able to speak to my son since November 30th.
That's also rough. Why are they both locked down 23 hours a day? That sounds super fucking severe.
And I have not been able to speak with my wife since December 3rd. I know that I have experienced pales in compassion to what those families who've lost their children and countless other victims experience every
The threats against them. Okay, that makes sense.
day because of what my son did. But I want you to know I too grieve for everyone, as I have explained. For everyone that's been affected by what my son pled guilty to doing. And I'll continue to feel this pain for the rest of my life as well. If I could go back and change things, if I could go back and do things differently, and maybe none of us would be here today. So again, I ask Your Honor to impose a just and fair sentence based on the truth about what you heard during my trial. I'm asking the court to sentence me to time served and place me on probation for the maximum time allowed with the GPS tether for as long as the court deems necessary. I also want to address one last thing. And that's to what Tate Mears' dad said.
I think he should have ended his speech like right here. This is the telling that I heard.
It is time that we all know the truth. We have been prohibited from telling the whole truth. The whole truth has not been told. And I'm with you, Mr. Meir. I too want the truth. Because you have not had it. You have not had the truth at all. The truth has not been presented to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crumbley. Ms. Lehman, are you wanting to say?
And I think the truth that he's talking about was what this lawyer referred to earlier about the lock and whether or not like the gun was locked or not.
Go ahead.
Oh, and about like I guess she mentioned that the son wasn't allowed to testify. The school shooter wasn't allowed to testify. There was like some medical examiner or medical reporter or something like that wasn't allowed to testify. I forgot what she said. And in her statement, she talked about how the school didn't tell them everything. The school were not completely transparent with her. So I don't know. Maybe that's the truth that he was talking about.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Same.
Thank you, Your Honor. I did submit a sentencing memorandum, Your Honor. I'm not going to belabor the points that I made in my memorandum, as I do believe that it was thorough. However, I do want to note for the court that, especially in statements that have been made about James, that he lacks remorse.
Oh, is that what she meant then when she said the son couldn't testify? It was because he couldn't appeal because he was appealing his sentence? She brought that up. So it made it seem like the court didn't allow the son to testify because he wanted to or something. That's how I interpret it as.
That he doesn't feel bad. That he's trying to put off responsibility on everyone but himself. That he's allegedly made threats toward the elected prosecutor. Your Honor, in some of the same calls that the prosecution has tried to use and has quoted in their own sentencing memorandum and attached as exhibits to their memorandum, as I noted in my sentencing memorandum, Your Honor, James also said in those very same calls that he wished that he had known what his son was capable of. That if he had known, if he had been made aware of these things, if he had known that his son had obtained access to a firearm, that maybe he could have saved the 4 children's lives. That maybe he could have saved a lot more than that. Your Honor, there has never been a time that James Crumbley has not acknowledged what happened in this case. He has felt horrific grief for not only the families, but for the people who have been affected. He's grieved for himself, for his own child. And while that may not be something that is a popular statement to make, he's grieved for the child that he believed he had. Not the child who pled guilty, but the child that he believed he had on the morning of November 30th when he dropped his son off at school. James could not have predicted what his son was going to do that day. He couldn't have predicted because he didn't know that it was going to happen. As James said, Your Honor, you sat through the trial, Judge. You heard the evidence that was presented. You also know that there was no indication given in the evidence presented that James had knowledge of what his son was planning. That James didn't know that his son had been accessing that firearm.
Wait, I think we have to talk about these phone calls. Hold on a second. I see a lot of expletives in here. Defendant's jail calls showed that he blamed everyone but himself for what happened, and he repeatedly referred to himself as being persecuted and considered himself a martyr. He addressed threats directly to McDonald, and in one threat made on September 23rd, I was like 2 years ago, he said, yeah, you fucker? I'm not sure. Fucker? You're a effing stupid beep. I hope you're listening to this, you effing beep. This is back in 2022. Are there any recent ones? Okay, we got some recent ones here. This is from December 2022. Well, she's going to be effing sucking on a effing hot rock down in hell soon. This is from October 2023, last year. Yeah, Karen McDonald, you're going down. You stupid bee at the jail. Go ahead, record this call, send it to Karen McDonald. Tell her how James Crumbley is going to effing take her down. Good luck with that, James. December 20th. Yeah, effing Karen McDonald. You're effing... Oh, you're fucked when I get out. December 23rd, 2023. There will be retribution, believe me. I mean, this sounds pretty fucking threatening. And he actually thought he was going to get out. This is beginning of this year. I am effing on a rampage, Karen. Yes, Karen McDonald, your ass is going down. You better be effing scared. They sound pretty threatening. His jail communication was revoked on March 7. In another section, James Crumbley claimed that he was wrongly accused and now wrongly convicted of involuntary manslaughter. Yeah, I was a little bit unsure about the involuntary manslaughter part. I thought it'd be more like reckless something, you know? My actions were that of any parent. Ethan was a great kid. He never got in trouble at school, had decent grades, and very rarely got in trouble at home. When he did get a minor trouble, it was just about grades or assignments he needed to complete. Ethan always appeared to be a very stable individual. Never did he voice anything to me that anything was bothering him. I followed along and took the gun safe to the point as needed. My gun was hidden in a location that, until I found it recently, only I knew of. The bullets were also hidden in a different location. I had no idea how he obtained access till the psych doctor he met with at the forensic facility testified in his Miller hearing for the prosecution that he snuck in my room to locate the gun and then later snuck into my room to steal it. The information was provided in the report in the prosecution in March of 2022. She also concluded that he was not mentally ill. So the reasons I was charged have been concluded to not been true. Yet I'm still prosecuted as if they were. The prosecution continued to lie even after having this information, and they used this information against Ethan in his Miller hearing. And then I was not allowed to use it in my defense. So my prosecution conviction are based on lies. Things my son said only to his friends and emotion. The father expressed how bad he feels about what happened. I feel horrible for what happened and would do anything to go back in time and change it, but I can't. Yeah, you can't. And I had nothing to do with what happened. I don't know why my son did what he did. He's the only one who knows. The prosecution said that James Crumbley's shameless lack of remorse in asking for time served is a slap in the face to the victims and their families. Okay, so those are the lies that he's talking about.
Unsupervised, or that he had access to the firearm unsupervised. Judge, you heard that that firearm was stored legally at the laws at the time, in November of 2021. That there may be differing opinions on whether or not that firearm was stored responsibly, Your Honor, but it was stored legally. It was stored unloaded. It was stored with the ammunition stored separately. Your Honor, James Crumbley did and made the decisions that he thought were right. Based on the information that he had, even on the morning of November 30th at the school, you've heard multiple times that James had no knowledge of what his son was intending to do later that day. That even the school officials, the people who were trained, they talked about the special training that they had during trial. Even those individuals said that they did not believe that James's son was a threat to other people. That they had concerns about his sadness, Your Honor.
They had at a minimum concerns about his danger to himself, right?
Correct, Your Honor. Danger to himself due to his level of sadness. That they wanted him to go talk with somebody, but that it wasn't so emergent that he needed to be removed immediately.
And isn't it the reason they didn't want him to go home?
Your Honor, there's some dispute as to whether or not the testimony from the school is accurate as to what actually occurred in that office. And Judge, I don't want to try and retry the case. I don't think it serves anyone or benefits anyone. But I do want this court to be aware, and Your Honor, you observed James during the trial. You're aware that he had difficulties throughout the trial. He showed emotion. He struggled with some of the things that he heard and saw. And
I don't know how anyone couldn't.
I agree, Your Honor. I agree. And as I've acknowledged numerous times throughout this case and throughout the trial, it is an incredibly emotional trial. Today is incredibly emotional for everyone involved. I echo what Ms. Smith said. There are no winners here. Everyone has lost in this case.
I think that Ms. Smith said in her sentencing memo that it's possible to stand for everyone here, not just the victims, for the Crumbleys as well. It's possible to be sad for everyone.
And I agree with that, Your Honor. I did ask the court to sentence James to time served. I am going to echo his request for a period of supervision with a GPS tether. I understand that the court, we did object to some scoring. I understand that, again, the court has significantly strong pressure. The emotions run high in this case, Your Honor. I don't envy what you have to do. However, I am asking you to consider my request. Thank you, Your Honor.
Prosecutor.
All right, I just have to correct some facts. The allegations that Jennifer and James Crumbley were left in the dark just are not true, and the evidence at trial does not show that. The evidence presented at trial that as late back as March, the 9th, 17th, and the 20th text messages about from their son to Jennifer Crumbley that he was seeing things. In April, his text messages to his friends indicate he asked for help. His mother laughed at him. April 26th, Jennifer told his friend's mother that he was depressed. There were multiple visits to the gun range. There was 2 guns purchased for him. The Crumbleys were aware that he was struggling in school, and in fact, they had a rather, I would say, critical fight the night before, which is all detailed, incidentally, and as well as where the gun actually was in the shooter's statements, his plea, and the multiple statements he made to the psychiatrist, the very same things. They stand here and say, oh, if only we could have...
Because the parents were going horseback riding, and then they get these text messages from their son, which maybe they thought the son was just trolling. It was like, this is March 9, 2021. Hold on. This was about a month before the shooting happened. Can you get home now? There's someone in the house, I think. Someone walked to the bathroom and flushed a toilet and left the light on. There's no one in the house, though. Dude, my door just slammed. Maybe it's just paranoia. But when are you going to get home? Jennifer Crumbley did not respond. She was horseback riding at the time, according to a timestamp photos that were shown to the jury. Because I wonder if she, like, saw the preview messages for these messages, and she was like, okay, my son's just trolling, or he's just being stupid, or he's being a teenage, you know, whatever. But... Because, like, when I first saw this, like, out of context, I was like, she probably just brushed it off as a son just, like, you know, messing around or something. Or just doing, like, dumb teenage things. But it seems like she knew that her son was suppressed because she talked to her friend about it.
Called them. Well, calling those individuals would have resulted in all of the claims that's inconsistent with what he said, and it's inconsistent with what the psychiatrist testified to in the Miller hearing. So I had no intention of addressing this, but it was brought up, so I feel as if I have to, and I have a duty to do so. They were concerned. The evidence showed that. They were very concerned. They were concerned about the drawing, and they were concerned based on the fact that they were called to school. Jennifer Crumbley's own statements acknowledges she was called to the school. They wanted him to get help. She said she had to go back to work, but they said that he could stay. None of that, by the way, is in dispute, and that she left. This insinuation that if only I had known he was sleeping in class and teachers might have been concerned, then none of this would have happened, is at the core of why you saw 6 people standing here and saying there's no remorse or accountability. And I want to be clear, remorse does not sound like I feel really bad. I'm sure they do. I don't dispute they feel bad. I don't dispute they have grief. That's not the kind of remorse and accountability these victims are looking for. Right. What that looks like is we messed up. We should have done this and we didn't, and we are very sorry. And that has not happened, which is what we're talking about here, and what you heard the victims say. I don't want to belabor anymore that we had to in the trial. I have a deep respect for Ms. Lehman, but the facts of this and the elements of this case simply are not that the prosecution had to show that he had actual knowledge and he could predict and he knew exactly what his son was going to do. Those are not the elements of the crime. It's not what the jury was required to find, and it has nothing to do with their actual conviction. Jennifer Crumbley and James Crumbley were not convicted based on a narrative.
I don't know, man. If I was her, I would be pretty fucking scared when James Crumbley gets out of jail, if he makes it out. I'd be pretty fucking scared because, you know, he might go after her.
They were not convicted because somebody thought they were a bad or good parent. Those 2 trials involved multiple motions and objections over evidence that the court sustained. We did not allow the jury to present the information about Jennifer Crumbley that her lawyer made a strategic decision to in the middle of the trial say open the door, you can bring it all in, was not due to the prosecution's requests or actions. but you can't seek to exclude evidence and then allow somebody to testify to inconsistent with the evidence.
Hi, Panda. Good morning.
The last thing I want to say is there is case law that the court's aware of about what the court can consider in fashioning a proportional sentence. And we don't give power or authority to victims to decide or render verdicts, with good reason. But we should not, and we cannot, sanitize their pain or the weight of the impact or chalk it up to it's emotionally charged, as if everything that's happened here is because people sitting here are too emotional and they pressure people, because that just simply isn't true. And not only should you consider the weight and the impact of the defendant's actions and inactions, you are required to, pursuant to the case law. It is one of the factors to consider, the severity and the impact of the crime. We've heard a lot about it's not what happened in the school. And while I understand that the negligence, the gross negligence that occurred happened before what happened in that day when he left that bathroom and started firing the 9mm and killing 4 kids. I understand that. But it is absolutely about what James and Jennifer did and what they didn't do, and the gross negligence that caused those acts. This is what it looks like. This is what it looks like. When 2 parents have the ability and are in the best position and have the most knowledge and need to protect other kids, and they do nothing. This is what it looks like. They do nothing, and then they come here today, and they claim they're victims of the school, of the prosecution, of the emotional tensions of public opinion. But there were 2 long and rigorous and detailed trials that included multiple victims and witnesses who testified under oath with hundreds of exhibits presented to the juries, with the safeguard of this court allowing what they could see and what they couldn't see, and they were defended by 2 attorneys aptly and vigorously. That is what this conviction is about. And when fashioning a sentence, it is absolutely critical that you listen and consider the impact of what that gross negligence caused. So we're asking you to exceed the guidelines, because I believe all of the factors pursuant to the case law, with the necessary consideration of the impact of these crimes, justifies you to do. We're asking you, the people are asking you, Your Honor, to consider the devastating impact of their gross negligence that was foreseeable. Help me. Blood everywhere. The world is dead. All the while, a 9mm had just been purchased for him, and 50 rounds of ammunition. Both things can be true, Your Honor. You can fashion a proportionate sentence, but not ignore the unimaginable loss and the grief that these parents are enduring. Because they will never get back another moment with Tate, or Hannah, or Justin, or Madison. And this is what it looks like. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess I would like to say briefly to the families, considering your immeasurable grief, it's completely understandable to hate everything associated with these proceedings. I spent both trials looking out at all the family members, and I wonder to myself, I'm looking straight on at Mr. St. Juliana, whether or not he'll ever smile again. And that's very difficult. I'm very aware of my job in the situation, very aware of my job, to not be swayed by public opinion, by media, by any of those different things. I can't and will not pretend to understand the pain the families are experiencing, but I did sit through these trials with you. I saw what you saw, I heard what you heard, so I can and will offer my deepest and most sincere condolences for your unfathomable losses. It's as I just said, it's not my role, it's not the role of the court system to make an example of the defendants. However, it is a goal of sentencing to act as a deterrent. These charges are not jury edicts about gun ownership or keeping the gun in a private home. All of the jurors in both trials agreed that they understood that. Parenting is a complex job. Parenting practices around the world share the goals of ensuring health and safety, preparation for life as a productive adult, and transmission of cultural values. Parents are not expected to be psychic. But these convictions are not about poor parenting. These convictions confirm repeated acts or lack of acts that could have halted an oncoming runaway train. About repeatedly ignoring things that would make a reasonable person feel the hair on the back of their neck stand up. Opportunity not to...
I don't know. So this is like the drawing from that day when they called the parents in, and that's when the shooting happened that day. So this is the drawing. It looks like it's like a gun, and he like scribbled it out. The thoughts won't stop. Help me, scribble it out. And then I don't know what this says. I can't read that. And then there's like a picture of like a person with their arms up. Harmless acts, my life, useless, I think scribbled out. The world is, I don't know what that says. Scribbled out. We're all friends here. I love my life so much. OHH rocks. Video game this is. Okay. I don't know. I feel like, I'm trying to think, like when I was in high school, I feel like you would get sent home for this shit. Like drawing this stuff. Be like, you're not staying here for the rest of the day. So maybe that's what they meant about like the school being held responsible. But I would just say I think the school should have just like sent him home for the day. Maybe for the week. I don't know. Maybe until they were able to get him some therapy. Talk to the school counselor or something like that. I don't know.
Over and over again, louder and louder, and was ignored. No one answered. And these two people should have and sure didn't. Mr. Crumbley, it's clear to this court that because of you, there was unfettered access to a gun or guns, as well as ammunition in your home. You characterized yourself as a martyr and threatened the well-being of the prosecutor. Mrs. Crumbley, you glorified the use and possession of these weapons. Your attitude toward your son and his behaviors was dispassionate and apathetic. Your response to school staff after a 12-minute meeting was, "Are we done here?" During your trial, you announced that you wouldn't do anything different. I understand that that might have been misinterpreted, but it did cut the victim's deep. Because of both of your actions and inaction, among many, many other things, the world is missing out on a top college university will miss out on Tate's star quality football skills. I met Raina, who's wise beyond her years, and she's told us that among many, many other things, community will be denied Hannah's kindness, creativity, and sense of humor. Among many, many other things, the world will miss is Madison's kind and loving soul and the light that reflected her beauty both inside and out. Although a hero in death because of his organ donations that helped so many, we will never know where Justin, an excellent student with vast skills and interests, described as a mentor and a leader, would have left his giant imprint. The impact statements given here and the written statements provided to the court describe the cataclysmic impact the deaths of these children have had on their children. With regard to each defendant, this court has spent night and day thinking about this case, as you can imagine. I prayed about this case, I've thought about this case, and I've considered the possibility for rehabilitation, the need to protect society, the penalty appropriate to the conduct and goal of deterring others from similar conduct.
What do you guys think she's going to give them? They're facing 15 years. That's like the max.
I have reviewed the pre-sentence investigation reports. I am, of course, sadly familiar with the facts and circumstances of these cases, as well as those surrounding each defendant. The advisory sentencing guidelines in this matter do not capture the catastrophic impact of the acts or inaction in these matters. The guidelines do not take into account the complete lack of insight both defendants have for their behavior to this very day. The guidelines do not account for the severity of the circumstances in this matter. The guidelines ignore the survivors, including shooting victims Phoebe Arthur, Elijah Mueller, Riley Franz, Kylie Osage, John Asciutto, Molly Darnell, and Aiden Watson. They were deeply wounded, both physically and emotionally. In addition to the 7 wounded, each of the defendants' gross negligence has caused unimaginable suffering to hundreds of others as a result of what happened that day.
Yeah, I don't know where she's going with this. I don't know. It sounds like I thought she was gonna do maybe like 5 to 10 years, but with her tone, I'm starting to, I don't know, maybe 15.
Each act or inaction created a ripple effect. Therefore, an out-of-guidelines sentence is appropriate and proportional. The court uses the useful tool of the legislative guidelines, which embody the principles of proportionality, while also taking into account the nature of the offense and the background of each defendant. I believe that the following sentences would be in the best interest of justice and are reasonable and proportionate to the seriousness of the matter and the circumstances surrounding each defendant. With regard to Jennifer Crumbley, it is the sentence of this court, Ms. Crumbley, that you serve 10 to 15 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections. You will have credit for 858 days. State costs are $272. There's a crime victims' rights fee of $130. You and your agents may not have any contact with the families of Madison Baldwin, Tate Meir, Hannah St. Juliana, and Justin Schilling.
Yeah, so Jennifer gets 10 to 15 years, but they already have 2.5 years for time served, and then they're eligible for parole.
I will issue another ruling with regard to contact with your son, the shooter.
Wait, what about the contact? Sorry, I missed that.
Baldwin, Tate Meir, Hannah St. Juliana, and Justin Schilling. I will issue another ruling with regard to contact with your son, the shooter.
Okay.
Excuse me. As to defendant James Crumbley, it is the sentence of this court that you serve 10 to 15 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections, that you receive credit for 858 days, that you pay state costs in the matter of $272, that there is a crime victims' rights fee of $130, that you or your agents have no contact with the families of Madison Baldwin, Tate Meir, Hannah St. Juliana, and Justin Schilling. Ms. Wheeler, have I left anything out with regard to sentencing? No restitution has been requested by any of the families at this time, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. I would like to advise both defendants that you are entitled to appellate review of your conviction and sentence, including that the sentence exceeds the guideline range. This is done by filing a claim of appeal by right, or when you are not entitled to file a claim of appeal by right, an application for leave to appeal. If you cannot afford to hire an attorney to represent you on appeal, and you request an attorney may be appointed for you. You may request an attorney by completing the request for appointment of attorney section of the form that will be provided for you, and by returning the form to this court, or to the Michigan Assigned Counsel System at the address on the form. If you wish to preserve your automatic right to appeal, the form must be received within 42 days after sentencing. If you do not submit the form within 42 days from today, you may still file an application for leave to appeal if the form is received within 6 months after sentencing. Do each of the defendants acknowledge receipt of their appellate rights?
I don't remember them saying that he was on medication, but if I remember correctly, I thought I heard that the parents would give him like a Xanax or something. Who watched the case again? Oh, Chopper? Chopper, do you know anything about that by any chance? Or if I'm getting it mixed up with a different case?
James acknowledges receipt, Your Honor. He's completing the form as we speak.
Your Honor, my client is as well. Would the court like the forms here, or would you prefer us to?
It doesn't matter either way.
Okay.
Either way.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to ask that everyone remain seated while the defendants are taken out of the courtroom. I think they're going to finish their assault.
Mr. Crumbley is going to finish his
All
form.
right, we'll wait for that.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I would just ask that no one stand up. It makes the deputies nervous.
When was the garage or the house guest thing mentioned? That house arrest with her attorney's house. When was that mentioned? Harper's spell. Chopper went back to be a one-piece pirate. He left us.
Sit down, please. Sit down.
Okay, so yeah, that's what I remembered. Lemon says the parents didn't help. They just gave him Xanax when he complained about hallucination and stuff. Yeah, that's what I remember too. I just wasn't like super sure on that.
Thank you.
That was the last couple of days before this hearing, really? I tried to find an article on that, but I didn't see anything. Oh, man. He got life with no parole. That's what the school shooter got. Oh, man. Let's see what's going on with the Apple River. Excuse me. Apple River. What is this?
Yeah. Everything we make there, we make it under the little Jennifer brand.
Got it.
But the company, their name is Richie Engineering.
Okay.
So what I do everything.
Schedule, well ahead of schedule at this point, given the fact that they're not going to want to have the jury deliberate late into the evening, or at least give them an opportunity to come in fresh. I would expect it to be tomorrow.
And that is Eric Nelson, criminal defense attorney here in the Twin Cities. Help.
Wait,
The
what's happening
fact
tomorrow?
reason happen. So if both sides' closing arguments are really going to have to focus on the intensity of the situation and bringing it back to how quickly these things actually happen.
And you would anticipate, we've kind of texted back and forth, that we would see closings. It sounds like there could be a rebuttal witness or two. You would expect closing sometime tomorrow morning, correct?
Tomorrow morning? Oh, God. No, we'll get there. We'll get there. Okay. Who do I like? I like Court TV. Apple River stabbing. I'm going. Okay, I can only cover one thing at a time. We coming. Let's see. Good. He's here. Okay. All right. Do I need to change my thumbnail then? What should I do? Oh, God. What should I do, guys? Should I end my stream and then start a new one? I think that's what I'm going to do. Okay, guys. YouTube is stupid. I have to end my stream completely, and then I'm going to start a completely new one. This stream that you're on is going to go debunk, okay? You have to click on a different stream when that one starts. I hate that YouTube does that. You can't just use the same stream when you end it and start up again. So I'm going to end this stream. We'll start the next one, and let's listen to Nicolay Mew's testimony, all right? All right, and I look forward to discussing that with you guys. I know we have a lot of different opinions, and yeah, I look forward to it. Let's do it. Okay, I'm going to end the stream. See you guys. 1 second. Now, if you're on Twitch, though, I'm going to continue the stream. It's the YouTube stream that's, like, funky. Actually, no, I think on Twitch,